Hi everyone, welcome to chapter 6. So this chapter is all on memory. So we're going to get into some really cool stuff, and I think this chapter has some really cool examples and some fun stuff to kind of talk about and to dive into. So let's go ahead and get started. So chapter 6 is all on memory. So the first thing I like to do when starting off this chapter is talk about some ways that we have maybe thought about memory in the past and how we think about memory maybe initially before kind of studying it in this class. And so I think some fun examples or ways that we might think of how our memory works is maybe we think it's sort of like this slate where we can write down information and our brain kind of copies and keeps track of information and stores it. And we can go back and kind of read that information and see what was written there. Or maybe we think of it like some maybe big library full of information, and we store information in this place and that place, and we can go retrieve it from here and there and kind of draw on that information to remember what it was that we had stored. Or maybe we think of it like a bag, like a purse or a big duffel bag that we can just kind of throw a bunch of information in and we can pull it out, and maybe we pull some random things out, or maybe we can dig and find what we're looking for and pull it out. And while these different metaphors might be good to kind of start off thinking about memory, we kind of find they start to really break down when we start investigating how memory really works and studying it from a psychological or scientific perspective. And so we're going to see that here as we go through this chapter. And the first demonstration I love to do is if you want, you can pause the video here and do it. And that is to actually try to draw a penny, the face head of a penny, based off of memory alone. And so if you want to pause and do that, you can. And in doing that, what you end up getting is people will kind of create or add in different parts of the penny. And so what you see here is sort of a rough rendition of a penny, and all of the different components or elements that most people tend to fit and include on that penny. So we see on the top part here, if you got what are in the top section, well, then that's great. These are actually things that are on the head of a penny, these sections here. And we see that this is things like "In God We Trust," or the date that it was minted, or the word liberty. And we see that, a lot of people tend to do fairly well in some of these, but in others, we see pretty low rates of people responding with these. On the other hand, not actually on the head of a penny, some of these are on the tail side of the penny. We see some people actually report things like 1 cent or 1 penny, and about almost a quarter of people report that and put that somewhere on the head of a penny. And so what this really kind of highlights and what this draws on is that our memory is not perfect, and it's not maybe as good as even we think it is. If I had asked you just to be able to tell me what's on a penny and to draw a penny based on memory, you may have been fairly confident in what your penny looked like. But in reality, what we see is that a lot of people are less accurate than they think they are. And this applies to really all forms of our memory. And we're going to see this as we go through the rest of the chapter.